7. We are live, digging deeper, and with me, I have the wonderful Professor Traci Currie.
Aww.
I'm so excited to have you.
Okay, so you're gonna have to say Traci. This is all.
But I just feel like out of respect, I gotta say that.
I received that. So then that means you're Professor T.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. There you go.
But now we can drop the formality.
Okay.
That was just, introductions. Just gotta let people know that, okay.
Okay. Now that you know. Okay.
Now that you know. So today's topic, hi Haifa. So today's topic, we are talking, I love that we do it live because you can just...
Because people can come. So this is all new for me. This is exciting. So hi everybody. Hi world. I love that.
Yeah, people can wave, they can write comments, we can interact.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be great. So we've got a really great topic today. We are talking about creating spirit spaces and honesty in expressions. So there's lots to unpack, lots to dig deeper. But before we do that, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
About myself. Okay.
I always have to put everyone in that awkward position where you're like,
right.
Tell us about yourself. But yeah.
So I'm Traci. I'm gonna actually go all in. I am Traci Evadne Currie. I don't ever really say my whole name, but it feels good because this past weekend I was away for, so I'm really gonna talk about myself, but I have to go back a little bit, but to say that I was at a spiritual retreat in Chicago. It was awesome. It was awesome. But in the process, I learned a lot about myself, about connecting with my family more. I came back, I realized that I need to put some practices in place for me to kind of reach to the next level of what I want to do in life. And that has a lot to do with my 14 years of being here and then deciding to make a change at the end of this semester.
You mean in Flint?
Here in Flint, yes, here in Flint. And so I say all that to say that I say my full name, Traci Evadne Currie, because I'm honoring also my grandmother, who I'm named after. So we both have Evadne. And I usually don't say the name under the notion that people will say, what? Huh? Yeah. How do you spell? So Evadne. And so it's just a blessing to know that I am named after this being.
I love that.
Yeah. And then it also honors her presence. I believe that she's here, so that's a good thing. Other quick things about me: that I was born in Chicago. I identify as Jamaican American. My family's from Jamaica. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. Did all of that, and then did a lot of my schooling in the South and also in the Midwest. I've been here teaching for 14 years at University of Michigan Flint. I felt like that was such a long title.
It is.
Yeah.
University of Michigan.
Right. There you go. So I've done that for 14 years, and so I made the clear and intentional decision to do something else in my life. So after this semester, I will head to the East Coast and see what else my heart, my spirit, my mind, my body can do. So
we're sad to see you go, but it's part of your journey, so I can't stop you. I gotta support you.
Yes. I need all my people to hear that.
Sometimes, we can't be selfish. We have to let go and let people experience what they need to experience.
That's it. And I did a quick reflection the other day, and someone made me realize that this essentially was my first, whatever they call real job, whatever that is, but the so-called first real job after I finished the degree. And so even though I spent a year teaching in the Midwest in Ohio where I went to school, this job I came to thinking I was only going to be here for about 2-3 years.
And then you ended up staying for that.
I ended up staying for 14 years, and so this is like that first job, and I'm just like, okay. And generationally, my family would say that there was a time whereas you would have a job, have a career, and that would be your career for life.
Yeah.
It's like times have changed. Nope.
Like, you know what? I think 14 years was a good run.
It's great.
Now I'm ready for the next one.
I'm so ready. I'm blessed, ready, and I'm thankful. Yeah.
Can you tell us what you teach?
Yes.
What
so
you've been teaching?
I was hired in the communication department. At the time, it was communication and visual arts, and I was hired in to teach production courses. So funny enough, I was the person who did what did I do? I did the video, audio, post-production. Did that for a period of time. They realized, oh, she could do a few more things. So I also
piled it on.
They piled it on a little bit. So I taught public speaking, media studies, film courses, and then the funny thing is, this is where my world was good, but my world opened up in 2007 when I created the spoken word course. And at that point, I was like, wow. Oh, life is really, now it's about to begin. It's on and popping. And I mean, I could arguably say that's what the research is in. That's what my dissertation's on. But spoken word, I believe words are transformative and they change lives. So that course has opened me up. It has.
And so you've been teaching that since 2007?
I have been teaching that since 2007. Wow. Yeah. And so last year I did this whole like decade celebration. The past 3 or 4 years, wonderfully, the Flint Public Library would allow us to host, they would host the course, the final performance at the library. And so I just kind of did this decade run, like we were doing it big, not knowing that I would teach the class again this year, but I'm teaching the class this year. And 11 years. We're going to celebrate hard, right? So it's going to be good. It's going to be exciting.
That is exciting.
And it's a good group. They're pushing me. They're pushing me in ways that I'm just like, you all are not playing.
Students do that.
Yes. They're supposed to.
They're supposed to. It's a learning experience on both ends.
Yeah. They're my teachers. I think that's the one thing that I'm learning about teaching is that we act like we have all of this knowledge base and it stops in this body. And I'm just like, no, my students are my teachers. They're hardcore. They're awesome. Yeah.
And they force you to research other things.
Ooh, yes, they
do. They remind you of what you don't know. Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with saying that I feel like I run into, I'm going to say academicians, pontificators, I run into people who and nothing's wrong with these names. So I'm not making fun, but I kind of am making fun. But I run into sometimes people who the older you get, the more knowledge you get, and then you become what feels like, I don't want to say the word elders, because I see the word elder in a very different light, but for all intents and purposes, for the fact that I can't come up with a word right now, they become like this
oracle of knowledge.
This oracle of knowledge. Thank you. Yes. And I'm just like, no. Yeah. We keep learning. We continue to learn. Yeah, we continue to learn. So
we continue to learn. And I think it's interesting too, because I feel like in my field, many of the women that I work with have this perspective, but the men that are in this same field are like, no, I do know. And I'm like, that's a whole nother conversation to be had. But,
I'll come back for that one.
That'll be a whole topic on its own.
But yeah, that's interesting.
We'll dig deep about that, yeah. So we are doing today spirit spaces. You have your Instagram, and you document this. Can you tell us a little bit about what?
I can.
How did you come up with this?
So that's exciting.
And what is it?
Okay, so spirit space. So this is when I get a chance and an opportunity to celebrate and honor the people who are in my circle. Spirit space has got to be about, I'm going to say about 3, maybe 4 years. No, I'm going to go with 3 years. And then if one of my besties is watching, then she'll say no. She'll chime in. Right. So Ayana, she's the person who helped me with this. We were talking through this and she said, Tracy, you like to take photographs. That's like your thing. And I would carry my camera with me everywhere. Yeah. And she said, why don't you, she said,
document.
Right. She said photographs is your thing and storytelling is your thing. So why don't you bring that together? And at the time I'm going to say I'm always exploring spirituality, but particularly at this time I was really exploring and understanding what people see as their own spirituality. And so she said, take those pictures and allow people to create stories. So the way it was set up was that I'm the one who has to take the picture. Okay. And that allows me to build my skills as a photographer. And I use that title very loosely. Like, I don't want any professional photographers coming after me and saying, you know, her F1 is off or something like that.
You just like to capture moments and images. And
Right, exactly. And so my job would be to take the pictures and I would take a lot of pictures of whomever I would ask to be the guest feature for Spirit Space. And then they choose whatever picture works. If they don't like it, we'll just go back in and we'll take more pictures. So that's a big thing. And then they actually create the story. And I would say my main question is, how do you see Spirit Space? What do you see as spirituality? What does that look like to you? Yeah. And I'm not necessarily looking for them to specifically hone in on a religion. It could be, you know, spirituality is broad. Spirit is broad. So I have a few where, you know, spirit is their children. Spirit is the places that they go. Spirit is meditation. Spirit is trees. And I have one who's just like, spirit is all about eating food. I have another one who, and particularly, I've come in and out. Some I've taken out with the idea that I'm going to go back and redo some of those pictures. But I remember specifically a friend who wonderfully is the one who produced the CD that I did. She does woodwork, Enos. She does a lot of woodwork, and she's out of Detroit, and it's beautiful work. And so what I did is I took pictures of her doing that work and doing her clothing line, and she does music, and I was just like, that's her spirit space. And so it allows me to capture whatever image, capture them in a moment, and then have them choose, and then allow them to share their story, whatever that looks like, and then I upload. Now the funny thing is that has transitioned over. I am talking a mile a minute.
No, you're good. You're good because we have an hour, so get as much in as you can.
Okay, so the funny thing is that over time that has changed. So I'm actually in some of those pictures, right? Which means that unless I'm taking a selfie, which I'm usually not, someone else is taking the picture. Yeah. And so what I had to do is I had to shift from always being behind the camera and to be a part of those pictures. I think that started to change when one of them was the year I turned 40. Okay. So I did this whole, this is Traci in all her light over a period of time. And so I have about 6 pictures where I had locks that I rocked for about 18 years. Short locks, red locks, all kinds of locks, afro, twists, right. So I've done all hairstyles, glasses, no glasses, in different places. One was in Italy, another one was, so I did that to take a good look at myself, because the one thing I've had to work on over the years is my image. Feeling comfortable, feeling confident, being okay with my nose looking this way, my lips looking this way. It's great when friends, family, and people say that you're beautiful, but if you don't consider yourself beautiful, doesn't matter what anybody says.
Doesn't matter how many times they say it.
Doesn't matter how many times they say it. So I took those pictures specifically for myself, as if to say, this. Take a look at yourself. You know, take a good look at what God created. Yeah. This is you. And all your full glory, and it changes. And I think because of that, it's allowed me to be okay with getting older, because I feel like I come out of a family and I come out of friendships, and I come out of circles that make it okay to get older. Actually, the older you get, the better you get. Yeah. You know, which is why I watch TV way less, because, you know, you turn on the television, you see those commercials, and you see like all kinds of things. They sell you everything that reminds you what your age is, and that it's not okay to get older. And so I'm good on that. Like I need my circle to be tight, whereas having gray hair, which by the way I'm excited about my 2 gray hairs that I have 2, and I know people may not see it, but
you see this guy
rocking it sexy, right? Like gray hair is a good thing.
And I mean, now young people are doing it too. You see all these people dyeing their hair gray.
And I'm just like, no. But
you didn't get there yet. So let's
reel it back.
Reel it back in.
Right. But I did have a friend who said, you know, I see how excited you are, Traci. Just, you know, chill out. It's going to bring all its friends in due time. So yeah, I think older. It's a little bit of both, and just being excited to own myself right here, right now, and being mindful of the present.
So what is spirit to you then?
So after I said all that, I feel like I should say, I don't know. So spirit is, let me see. Spirit starts on the inside and it is manifested outward. So I felt like I did a description instead of a working definition. So as we progress, I feel like we're going to come up with a lot of definitions. But spirituality or spirit for me is the inside of who I am. I used to say this all day long. I feel like I shouldn't confess this, but I used to say,
you're already there.
Right, on TV. Right. Oh, so I used to say that when people like me or crush or whatever the case may be, that they've got to be, now this is during my, I'm going to go with insecure days, but they've got to be falling in love on the inside, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, the outside, like this is really awful because this story is going downhill.
You know what? It's fine. We're just.
But let's go with this. So here we
That's how you go deep.
Right. So this is how we're gonna go
too.
deep. There you go. Excellent. So I used to say that the person who likes me or falls in love, they fall in love with the inside of me, and then all of that they see on the outside is manifested. The inside of me is always is spirit, right? Like I have, and I do believe this now, is that I happen to believe that people, and we put this in the context of partnerships and companions, but I believe that people, friends, family, best friends, mom, dad, that they fall in love with the inside of me, like who Traci is. So when people describe, I mean, I guess they can say she's 5'3", hairy legs, you know, all that stuff. But I'm thinking when they say who is Traci, we don't go for a description first, a physical description. They go for the inside. Yeah. That's spirit. That's the spirit. They're just like, she's the person who does this. She's whether it's good or bad. I mean, I like to believe that they say that I'm compassionate and that I'm loving, but even the things that may not feel good to the ear, that's the spirit side of me, and that manifests outward. Yeah. So all of this is just clothed in, or the best way, in the spirit of Dr. P and so many others, that I am a spiritual being having a human experience, right? And so
the physical body is the vehicle.
Yes.
For the spirit.
Exactly. And that I'm clothed, like this brown skin is just clothing around the being who I am. Like who I represent, what I'm created to be, what that calling is, all that stuff on the inside. That's me. And I just get to garment myself in this brown skin, right? So, but it's taken me a long time to even get to that point. It's taken me a long time to actually realize that, to say stuff like, it's just hair, right?
Because there's so much to unpack in those things. Because form, especially in this society, form has so much meaning to people.
It does.
And we're socialized to believe that this has so much meaning.
Right.
You know? And although it does have meaning in that your form and how people perceive you affects your experiences in life. That's just a part of this human experience, especially here as Americans, as people of color, and especially Black people in America. You can't take that away, but at the same time, the form shouldn't define you. It affects you, but we're social. It shouldn't define. I think we're socialized to think that beauty is so important. Looking a certain way is so important. And it's interesting because it's sort of this fine balance too. Like, as professors, do I think about how I dress when I'm in class? Yeah, I do. I don't put a lot of thoughts. I mean, at some point you're like, okay, I'm just gonna wear jeans because I'm just gonna wear jeans. But I remember the first time when I was in grad school, before I started teaching as a TA, we had to do this. It was at U of M in Arbor. It was like a GSI orientation. Yeah. And they said that teaching and to be a professor is to be a performer. It's a performance.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Right? And so you do have to decide, okay, what image am I projecting, and what type of person, and what type of performer am I going to be?
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, but I feel like the older you get, the less important those things become.
So I'm going to go with exactly that. The older you get, the more I don't care.
Yeah.
The more I don't care. I am of the same mindset. I remember, I have a good friend, and I remember teaching right after I finished the degree, and I recognized that I look young to the students that I was teaching back then. And I was dressing, I can't even remember.
I still do right now.
Right? So this is the same thing where they question, they're wondering who the teacher is.
Yeah.
I remember even the attire, and this friend said, well, what do you expect? Look at the way that you dress. Now, I don't remember what I had on, but I do know this. I remember that statement based off of when I interviewed for the job that I have now, teaching at Young Flint. The one thing when they said, do you have any questions? My question was, am I allowed to dress any way that I want? The beautiful thing is the people who were sitting in that room, and I can't remember, I felt like there were about 4 people, but I only looked at 2 of them. One had on tattered jeans, and tennis shoes, and the other person had on a suit. And the person who had a suit said, take a look at us. And that was my response. It was kind of like, do you?
Yeah.
And I hate to admit it, but I was just like, yup, I'm going to take this job. Right? This will work. And so over a period of time, just trying to figure out what my clothing pattern looks like. And then 14 years in, I was just like, I'm a jeans, Converse kind of girl. Right?
And that's just it.
Yeah. And you have to figure that out over a period of time.
Yeah.
Right? You have to navigate what that looks like, how people respond to you. I feel like after you've been there for a period of time, they figure out, like, you can't really confuse, that's Traci, so.
Yeah. And you go through phases. I mean, when I first started teaching, I used to wear dresses and heels every day.
Right.
And my office and the building I taught at, it was like a 10-minute walk because I used to teach at U of M Ann Arbor. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Right. And I remember my students would know. They're like, oh, she's coming, because they could hear, clonk, clonk, clonk.
They could hear the heels, yeah.
And now it's flats, and I don't wear my shoes in my office because I don't want to wear it. It changes. Things change.
Comfortability. But comfortability, not only necessarily in the physical in terms of walking, but just comfortability in self. Over a period of time, you're like, this is me.
Yeah.
This is what works. I remember last year I did my phase of, like, was it last year or a year before? Something like that. I did the nose piercing, and I called that rebelling. Right? So this is beautiful about this. So whereas for me, it was rebelling, and I'm not too sure who I was rebelling against. Because when I got it, and I went up to friends, and I was like, y'all, do you notice anything? And they were looking. They were just kind of looking around, and they were like, And then I was just like, you don't notice anything? This is major for me. And finally, I had to point at it, and they were just like, that's not really rebelling. Nah, that's...
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Something new. Yeah. But it made me question, why did you really do that? And who were you really rebelling against? And so it may be that it was a dialogue that had more to do with my parents, because I knew how my parents would react, which was, I think my mom thought I was going to get a tattoo, which she was okay with. She was like, nose piercing.
Of all things, no, I'd rather you put ink that never goes away on your body than a piercing that you can take out.
What? So those are the things where I'm wondering, why do we do the things we do? We call it rebellion or a disruption, against norm, and then you realize that some of the things we're doing, actually, they're not so disruptive as we make them out to be. So.
And maybe they're not so much for us as we make them out to be.
There you go. Maybe they're not so much for us. Yeah. Those are the things I'm learning about self. So, but I do believe in disruption. Like, I think that's the beauty of spirit spaces, is in many ways, the spirit space for me represents inclusion. It represents inclusion in a society that does a lot of things that feel very normative. Like, this is what norm looks like. This is what a family looks like. This is what you do. And so for me, it allows me to choose people who represent, who, for whatever reason, there's a connection there. Whatever that connection is, whatever that draw in is. And so inclusion would be anybody and everybody can sit at the table. Now, I say that carefully.
Yeah, I was going to be like, everybody?
Right. Because I say everybody and anybody can sit at the table. I just may not want them to sit at my table, right? And so what I'm recognizing, and I remember hearing Mama Soul talk about this in one of her songs where she's like, I keep my crew tight.
Yeah.
And I think that's the table I'm talking about in terms of inclusion, is what does my crew, what does my circle, what does my family, what does that look like to me? Like, this is family, right? This, my friends who practice and learn spirituality across the board. One who identifies as atheist, another one agnostic, another one Eastern philosophy, like all of those things across the board. The young lady that I consider, my mentor would say, I'm the daughter she never had. I'm gonna, in the spirit of Gloria, I'm gonna say, the daughter I never had who's Muslim. Like, all of those things represent inclusion for me, especially in a world, or in the United States, in a society that says that we have the freedom to practice anything that we want. But in fact, do we really have the freedom to practice? Because there's a lot of people who seem to be ostracized in the ugliest way, which means I don't know if we really practice inclusion. And the minute we start talking about politics, I don't know if people believe the things that they actually say. So,
I don't think that we as a nation do.
No.
I will say that comfortably.
Yeah.
I think it's more about
right,
America. I think it's more about, we as individuals, are we inclusive?
Are we? Yes.
Because like, other people may not be inclusive or include us, and we might not have a seat at certain tables, but we can create our own table. And that's the inclusion I'm talking about, right? That's the spirit space that says, I'm going to ask this person to be a part of it. And so you may not be at this table, then you may not be part of the Constitution or whatever document that people think is a wonderful document that didn't actually include you when it was created. Like, let's talk about what it means to be normal. And that's why, this is what comes to mind. That's why Alice Walker's The Color Purple is my favorite book. She shows me that family is women taking care of each other, right? And I remember having this dialogue with a friend where she said, well, Traci, don't you want to... Actually, it wasn't her who said this. Someone. So we're going to leave it right. Someone said, well, don't you want the full family? And I said, well, what is the full family? And you know what this dialogue looks like. So I'm not saying anything brand new or very deep. But the full family is like, don't you want the married and the children? And I have the cat, right? And I do have the nice house, right? I have all of those things. She's in a wonderful place. All of those things. And I'm not opposed to that. But what I do have a problem is when that becomes the norm, and if you do something else, then it becomes problematic, or you don't fit into the mold, or you're not accepted. That's what's troublesome. Yeah, that's what's an issue, especially when I'm just my spirituality today is love. It's love and light. And so, and that comes in all kinds of forms, which means, that doesn't fit norm. It feels like actually what's not norm is love and light. So that's if you see what we're socialized, what is all the content that we see on social media, on TV, on movies and whatnot, which is why Black Panther was such an amazing movie for.
So we have to talk about that. I'm so glad you said that. I was like, can I say it?
Because it's showing something and saying this is also the norm.
This is also the norm.
Like, there are so many things that are the norm. Each person, you are your own norm. Why subscribe to something that... Why subscribe to the whole, keeping up with the Joneses? Why? What benefit does that do for you? And that's not to say there's anything wrong with that. I think that, of course, if you want to take the route of, traditional family and you want to live in the suburbs, for instance, like the American dream, whatever it is, if that's what the norm is, it's fine if you live that way because you're choosing to do it. And if you are happy with that,
right,
then more power to you,
Right.
But if you're not, you shouldn't be ostracized and you shouldn't be told that, no, that's not the right way.
That's it. As you're saying that, I was telling someone the reason why I loved Black Panther. Saw it for a second time.
So did we.
Right? Like everybody else I know, they're just like, yeah, we're going for our third.
Yep.
Right? But what I loved about the film was two things in particular. One is it reminded me of the love that I saw was family. Mm-hmm. So I loved the relationship between mother and son, brother and sister, love and love. And I would say, like The Warrior, one of my favorite scenes, there's so many, but one of my favorite scenes was when General Okoye was, I guess they brought her up on the cell phone, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, "Hello, my king. Hello, my love." And I thought that's beautiful in and of itself. Just that connection of there's many tribes in this whole space.
Yeah.
And in that they collectively come together as one full community, and that's the village. And it's not particularly a couple, and that's it. Because I feel like in the United States, and I need to be careful because it's not like I've lived all over the world.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear about that. But I will say that my background in saying this has to do with some of the stories that my parents tell me, and particularly my mom told me recently. She would say that, when you come up in the family, it's okay to be the whole family live together. So that is parents, children, grandmother, grandfather, great-grandparent. Like they all live in that same household. I saw that in Wakanda. Like they may not be in the same room, but mother and siblings and king and queen, all of them are living in the same household. Where here it appears once you hit a certain age, you go off to school,
and then you leave.
And then you leave and you start your family, and that's in and of itself. You may come back to check on the elders who are getting older and stuff, but you have started your whole family. And I know that that's one of the reasons why I'm going back to the East Coast, and I have no problems with saying I love the idea of being closer to my parents. That's important to me. Yeah. Right? So that's one thing. The second thing that I loved about Black Panther were the women rocked it.
Yes.
Hardcore. I mean, King T'Challa.
They were protectors.
Right. He was cool and all. But
like...
right? There you go.
Yeah, those women.
He wouldn't be alive without those women.
It's true.
So I felt like the women rocked it no matter what role they were. Mom, brilliant sister, passionate social justice spy, queen, general warrior,
scientist,
all of it across the board. And I think that reminds me that women and men, we all come together in the community, but women take care of each other. That I needed to see that. It reminds me again of the color purple, that we take care of each other in our own ways.
We've got some comments here.
Okay.
Hello to everybody who's on.
Hi.
Keep up the good work, Mrs. Ayub. You are the best. That's one of my students. Thanks, Ibrahim.
Oh.
And one of my friends said, "And blessed be the strangers." It's okay to be strange. It's okay to be different. And look at your shirt.
Yes.
T-shirt reference. You gotta pull it up a little.
Actually, okay, so let me, here we go. So that people know.
There we go. Stranger
Dreams. This is actually a playoff, but this is actually the company, Good Boys.
Is it?
Yeah, the Good Boy clothing. So this is it. So this is one of their... So this is one of them. And so because I'm into Stranger Things, Netflix, right. And now I'm taller. I've been trying to work on that, right. So, I wanted to support. I like the clothing that they have and stuff. And then I like Stranger Things on Netflix. That was a plug. There you go.
So we're talking about spirit, spirit spaces and inclusiveness.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. We talked about it a little bit, but we didn't use the actual word authenticness, being authentic and being truthful and honest. And I think you touched a little bit on that. You touched a little bit on it when talking about, am I doing something for myself? Am I being true to what is my spirit?
Right.
And am I expressing it to the best of my ability? So I guess when we talked about this a little bit before when we had the email exchange, and you talked about, okay, there's truthfulness, there's honesty, and there's authenticity. Is there a difference between these three?
Truthfulness, honesty, authenticity. So I should have looked up these words before this interview. I just want y'all to know that. Okay, truthfulness, to be true. So I'm going to break it down in terms of root, and you are so going to jump in at every moment. To be truthful. And I'm going slow so I can process this in my head.
That's a part of the process of digging deeper.
Right. Okay, so to be honest, no, to be truthful, truth. So now I feel like I need to work through the definition of what it means. What is truth?
What is truth?
What is truth?
Am I expressing the truth?
Right. And for me, that's very, one, that's philosophical, and two, that is subjective, right? Because my truth is probably different from someone else's truth.
Yeah.
Not even is different from someone else's truth. And I know that and so make sure I do not forget the other two. Yeah. I know that for sure because I even have these conversations about religion, right? And so every so often, depending on who I'm talking to, we'll talk about in context what it means for them to live. I have one person in mind, for them to live a Christian life, and then they'll look at me and I'm just like, you keep on talking about the life that you choose to live, right? So that is your truth. My truth has much to do with exploring and understanding spirituality without question, definitely believing in God and believing in a creator and all of that. But I'm also very careful in terms of what that looks like when we talk about truth, because every so often the dialogue looks like there's only one truth, one way, and I'm just like,
capital T and
right. So then I have to go back to that whole narrative in my heart. Now I keep on doing this as in my ear, but in my heart that says, if I believe in inclusion, then that one truth that actually does not work for me. Right? That doesn't. I feel like this is my coming out. Some people I have not said this to. So here you go. Watch the video. Right.
It's kind of like I have this one image that I got from this printing store in Eastern Market in Detroit. And it's an image. It's really beautiful. It's like this. It's on a black sheet of paper, and in white, it has these arrows that are all pointing towards the center. And and all of them, they're the one direction arrows, like the sign, the street sign. So it's one direction arrows, but multiple of them, like really close to each other, all facing inwards. And the arrow itself is the shape of a heart. Oh. And then it all comes to that one thing. And I think, everyone has their own truth, but I think at the end, it leads almost to the same direction. We're looking for the same thing. We're looking for what is our spirit? Who are we? What is our purpose? What is, we're trying to answer the same questions. We're just getting there a different way. Which is fine.
I do, my heart believes that's okay. However you need to do that and navigate, because life in itself is that journey, right? Yeah. So that's that dialogue about truth, that more than one way. Yeah. Truth. Honesty. So honesty, now that I'm speaking and saying it, honesty is different, right? Because that's the word you use, honesty. Yeah. There is being honest and not being honest. Yeah. Lying. Yeah. So that's the context I put honesty in. And that to me is different from truth, from my perspective, or at least my lens right now. Yeah. Is being honest as a friend, being honest as accountability partner, being honest as partners, companions, husband and wife, like that.
But also for yourself.
But also being honest with self, which is one of the things that I learned this past weekend, being with one of my big brothers, who called me out. I feel like he should be watching this right now. I'm confessing, right? And he was just like, Traci, you need to be honest with yourself. You're not being honest with with all the things that you want to do or the things that you don't want to do. Like ground yourself. And so that in itself has a lot to do with what truth are you telling yourself? That's the honesty I'm thinking of. Is are you lying to who you are, to your spirit, to your being? And if you're lying to yourself, then that means automatically you're lying to everybody else, right? Because I start with myself first. Yeah. And then authenticity. So the word that comes to mind for authenticity is real. Yeah. But I feel like that's kind of linked to honesty and truth, but not.
I feel like authenticity is the expression.
Yes, it is. Thank you. That's it.
The expression.
That is expression.
Right? Because either you are being real and true to who you are. If I believe that this is my truth, for instance, whatever that truth may be, I have to be honest with myself that I believe that this is the truth for myself. This is what's going on. And that might have to do with a belief system. That might have to do with how I see myself. Like, there's so many different things that we could be talking about, right, when we're talking about truth. So there's that truth. I accept it. I'm honest with myself. And then I'm authentic in expressing that.
There you go. That's it.
Right? We just linked it.
We just got, boom. Did y'all get that?
Write it down.
That's right. Take notes now.
The test is next week.
That's it. I love it. And the more you said it, the more I was thinking to myself, my authenticity and what it means to be authentic is the creative expression. It is the artistry. It is the thing that allows me to be exactly me on stage. So some things, when it's just me off stage, whatever that off stage looks like, I'm battling through it. Yeah. But on stage, I get to be complete. I get to dress me. I get to rock me completely. Whatever that may look like, however that's manifested, along with me clothing myself in the words that I want to say to people. Like, this is the authentic me. Take it or leave it, right? Yeah. And then I get off stage, come back home. But that's expression.
But it's like, those are the expression. The beautiful thing about expression, especially like creative expression and artistry, is that you are able to say, this is such a deep part of me and who I am, and I'm not just keeping it to myself, but I want to share it. Yeah,
that's right. I want to share it with the world, or I want to share it with whomever wants it, needs it, can use it. Authenticity leads me to some of my favorite artists. I don't even know if we. Okay, so I'm just gonna go there.
Yeah, just go there. We're there.
So some of my favorite artists, one of them being Audre Lorde. And anybody who knows, I'm usually rocking this essay in my brain like I feel the whole world needs to know this essay. The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action. And I love this essay. And poetry is not a luxury, just so y'all know. It's so not me, Audre. So, but I say specifically the transformation of silence into language and action because I believe words, they breathe life and they can also destroy, right? And so she says specifically in the transformation that, I cannot afford, or you cannot afford, or all of us cannot afford to be silent. That silence actually kills. Yeah. And that when you start using your voice and you put it into language, then it begins to manifest outwardly into action. It's always interesting to me now, and I hear this a lot, that people will say, I'm tired of people talking. I get it. I'm tired of people talking too, to some degree. But
we sit here and
talk. But I do hear, I'm tired of talking. I want to see action. Yeah. I don't want any more groups. I don't want any more dialogues. Just let me see the action. But I go back to talking because some people need to talk it out. When I talk to myself and I'm and we know what this looks like. When I'm in the mirror and I'm staring at those sticky notes, I don't really have any sticky notes up, but I'm staring at those sticky notes that say, you are the bomb. You are like all the stuff that you have to affirm to yourself and remind yourself so that you believe it. Yeah. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's a lie. Whoever came up with that mess, right?
Absolutely.
Names do hurt.
Worse,
right? They break, they tear up. Words to me are the transformative thing. they change, they shift. And so when she says, use your voice, you have got to speak. You speak for those who can't speak. You speak for those who are abused. You speak for those who are trying to figure out what their voice is. You speak for the Sealies of the world. I always go to Sealy, the color purple Sealy, right?
Yeah.
That you speak for those who keep on being quiet until they can speak. And so that's why I love her, is that she reminds me that my voice is very important. It's really important.
This is I love this because this is related to so many other topics that we did in the previous 5 episodes of Digging Deeper. And I feel like we just continue
to dig deeper. Right?
But you're right. I mean, words have power.
They have
and you can't be an advocate without using your words. However that may be. You know, you can write, you can do poetry, you can speak, there's so many, I mean, this is right here, this is an avenue, right?
It's an avenue. What I'm learning actually from this, which is really important for me, I used to be the one a little bit, some time ago, I'm going to confess this, I'd be like, social media, down with social media. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just, decades back. So, and then I would complain about the iGen. I'm hoping none of my students are watching this, but I'd complain. I'd be like, put those phones down.
Yeah.
You're in public speaking class, and then I realized, a good friend said this to me. She said, this generation that a lot of people complain about, they call them lazy and that they're not listening and all of this stuff. And she said, actually, they're not lazy at all. They're selective. I was like, that was kind of fly, right? She was just like, they're selective. They're choosing what to pay attention to on one end. And number 2, she said, they're saying things that a lot of us who are of an older generation, whatever that looks like, and whatever that age may be, they are doing things and saying things and putting things into practice, the things that we actually cannot say. And they're using social media to do it, right? And that you can't run away from that's the 2018 world. And until social media or until the internet shuts down, this is what we have. And if that's their avenue, then that means we support them in that. And we remind them of history. And we provide that foundation. We keep on telling stories, but you don't stop them, and you don't call them lazy, and you don't call them the woe is me generation, because that's not the case. And that's a good check at the door.
I think so.
Yeah, it's a different perspective for me.
Yeah.
Because I was that person that was acting a fool. I'm sorry, iGen. You all are the bomb. Yes.
Hi to everyone who's waving.
Yay.
Thank you for being here.
You all are awesome.
I mean, it is pretty phenomenal what you can do with social media.
Yes.
I mean, we were just talking about this in the car last week. I had this idea of doing this show, Digging Deeper. If this was a couple of decades ago, let's say just even 1 decade ago.
Right.
If I wanted to do this, what platform would I do it on? How would I reach people?
Was there something? MySpace?
Yeah, MySpace.
Not live though.
But you couldn't.
Oh no, you're right.
You couldn't
not
do it
live.
live. This is great, right? Because
phone.
like you've got people here, and everyone who's here, you guys, if you want to comment things, if you want to ask questions or just add to the dialogue, feel free to.
Right.
Like the fact that we can do this and have a live conversation with people some of whom I don't even know. You know?
That's so cool.
And that you don't have to take this. I don't have to take this show and do a pitch to like a TV, to a network, or to anything. I can just say, I'm doing this.
You don't need their permission.
You didn't need their permission. You just do it. Create a website. Do it on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever medium you're using.
Yeah.
And you can just do it.
Yeah. I love that.
You know, and the thing that is beautiful, and we were talking about this on, whose episode were we talking about? I think on Mahogany's episode, where we were talking about advocacy. But when you're curating these spaces on these social media forums, you have to choose. What is important is that you have to be careful about yourself and how authentic you are being in that while you're curating that space, and to not use it of course is a barrier. There's like the separation between me and you if we're just talking to each other online.
Right.
But how much of myself am I going to share with you? How honest am I going to be about who I am and what my experiences are? And I think that is where you can take this, dreaded social media,
right,
and flip it.
Right.
But it's just a matter of, am I doing that? And on the other hand, constantly questioning ourselves. Why am I doing this? Why am I continuing to do
What's
this?
your intention?
Yeah.
What's your
intention? I mean, intentions are huge. We've got another comment here.
What?
Oh, Kota from Morocco.
From Morocco?
Greetings from robots. What's the subject again? We're talking about spirit spaces and honesty and expression.
So we just reached Morocco. So this is a beautiful thing about, obviously, social media, global. Right? I love that. Like, this, for me, is a global conversation, and that it reaches across lines, which is why this is
UK
why,
here.
There you go. Inclusion, to me, I don't know
Everyone's at the table. You got all these people at the table.
Just proved
from
my point.
different places.
Yes. I need Washington, D.C. to see this.
to do this right here.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Right.
That's inclusion.
Sit at the table. Right. That's so important.
And to say that we're going to get together, we're going to use social media, we're going to get together, but we're going to have really deep conversations about things that are true to ourselves and things that maybe are uncomfortable, things that maybe we need to work on. I mean, I'm going to say this myself. I definitely need to work on it. Everyone, I feel like you're a constant work in progress. That's the nature of being human.
Right.
And if you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done.
I'm perfect.
Like,
you can't see this. So perfect, right?
There's a problem there.
Right.
You know, then are you being honest with yourself?
No.
At that point.
Or at least not right to me. But this is a funny thing. I think that some people don't even realize that they're not being honest with themselves, right? Like, that's the dialogue I had with someone recently. They got to this point where, we had the dialogue of, I have all this information and I know it and I feel equipped and stuff. And I'm just like, but after you have that information, that ball of information, there's so much to know. I have all these books on this shelf, and I'd like to tell people that I've read all those books. I mean, it looks good. It looks really fancy.
I love to do that too. I've got an entire study room.
Right? But I haven't.
These,
Right? That same old thing. The older I get, the more I realize I don't know. And the more books come out, and then there's always something to learn.
There's always something. We have a comment. What's the greatest lesson that life has taught you? I guess up until now.
So because I was gonna say honestly.
Yes.
Since I am still living life, I don't know. So up until now, up until this point, there's not one greatest lesson. There are many. So that's one of the greatest lessons, is that every single day is a lesson. Every single day I am realizing I'm a work in progress. I feel like it's too common to say that, but when I say I'm a work in progress, I am such a work in progress. I am realizing that I am uncomfortable in my skin. One. I am realizing that I come out of a bit of a family at times. Love my family. Hope they're not watching. So, love my family. That showing vulnerability is a bit of a challenge for us. And so one of the other lessons is that in order for me to talk about healing, in order for me to talk about trauma and ask my students to be vulnerable, which is what I do in the spoken word course, guess who also needs to be vulnerable? And that's hard as all get out. Which is why that class is a very uncensored class. So it gets colorful in language. Like this right now is PG, right? For me, in terms of, but in that course, it's almost a requirement to uncensor that so students can tell their stories the way it comes out, the way it sits on their chest. And so, because you can't censor people's stories, that's a lesson for me. And that's a hard lesson.
What are some ways, since we've got a few minutes left?
Okay. Wow, are you serious?
Yeah, it flies by.
It really does. I want another hour. No,
they're like, no.
Just kidding.
When you're teaching that course, 5 minutes.
3 minutes.
Huh?
Oh wow.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Mine shows 5.
Okay.
Maybe. Well, you're taking away time now. What are some of the ways that you instill in your students or teach them to be honest and authentic in that expression and in that storytelling?
Few things. One is I actually do my own confession lesson. So I was told a long time ago, no one, like, you don't go through school on, at least for me, I didn't go through school on how to be a teacher. There is no how-to class, at least when I was walking through. I did bumps, I fell down, I tried to get up, I had crutches and trying to be a teacher, like all of those things. And in those lessons of falling and falling and falling again, it is, you never show them any weakness. Vulnerability is a no-no. Show them that you're always brilliant. All of those things. So when I bring it back to now, I tell my students something that is personal, because I'm asking them to write stories about themselves and also to be personal.
Yeah.
And so in 15 weeks, we are working on ourselves across the board with each other, which means I have to not only be a teacher, but most importantly, I have to be a student. And so so we do confession, not confession like we're laying on the table. I'm the psychiatrist or anything like that.
Let me tell you all my deep dark secrets and sins.
No, like none of that. No, but what we honestly do is they have the right to ask me anything, right? I have the right to
Oh, I don't know if I like that.
I'm about to close it.
I have the right to
You got a minute.
to say okay. I have the right to possibly to say that I'm not comfortable enough to speak on that, but give me some time and I'll share a little something. And if I could just get there, share a little piece, then that's my first step to being vulnerable, and then they're willing to share a little something. My job for 15 weeks is to create a safe space, and it begins with me. So
going back to that spirit space.
Spirit space.
Before you share with us some expression, do you want to, we had a question about book recommendations, but I know you wanted to talk a little bit.
Book recommendations. Oh,
Recommendations or just daily practices, just
yes.
any sort of last minute
Thanks.
thoughts.
My book recommendation is Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. I love her because she's the one who talks about poetry is not a luxury. So for those who are artists, those who are women, those who are trying to figure it out, those who want to disrupt the norm, that's a good book because it's called Sister Outsider, right? Another one is that's coming off the top of my head is I always talk about The Color Purple, especially I feel like it's a book for everybody. But I'm gonna say for me it's a woman's book in terms of empowerment. Like it really felt good. And I love that you get to own your own language. So Celie is writing a letter to God, and it's in the language that she knows. And that shows me that, the world tells you to shape, reshape, talk this way. Celie's like, I'm talking the way I know how to talk. And so that's all about owning voice. And Alice Walker does that beautifully. Owning voice. I'm actually reading right now 2 books. I don't know if these are books that I'm suggesting. I'm just letting you know that this is a part of my practice. That one of the books is Autobiography of a Yogi. I would have a lot of friends who do yoga, and it felt uncomfortable. It felt uncomfortable being in big groups. And out there, I didn't have any yoga anything, so I was just like, But what I did do was I decided to pick up the book that was given to me as a gift. Okay. And now I appreciate the process of understanding why people do yoga, but understanding yoga as a lifestyle by reading about it from the person who is a yogi. And so that Yogananda, that book is really important to me. So that practice is that every morning I read a little bit each and every day. And then also aside of that is I pick up another book that I could just make sure that my mind is reading, and that's a book that's for me. And so right now I am reading, as they say, rereading, Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And then another practice for me is writing in a journal. And I just started that again. So there you go. Right. I used to write in one, I took a break, and then after this spiritual retreat, I came back because I was told it's time for me to get back to writing. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I took this journal out, and this is one that I started writing in 2012. And they were just ideas that I had. I applied for Fulbright, so I wrote about like my Fulbright application.
Yes.
Like
You
just
do have that, right?
Just ideas and things. And I was reading it in the car on the way up here, and we're in Flint, by the way, for those.
Flint. Flint Town. I don't know if there's like a Flint sign, but I love Flint, so there you go. Flint's a gem.
And just jotting down ideas and thoughts.
And hold your book up. This is
nice and compact.
Right.
Just stick it in my purse.
Yeah. Like there's this notion that journals have to be like really fancy, whereas okay, so I'm gonna show you my journal. Here we go. It's big, okay?
Girl, that take up the whole space. There we go.
I know. So I bought it, and so now I'm starting to write. I don't carry it everywhere because it's big.
Which is why this is why I started buying small ones.
Important.
Because then I would carry them.
Right. Yeah.
Then I would carry them.
So
I have that one, but in yellow.
Oh,
Wrap the journal.
This one, the small one.
The small one or the big one?
Actually, I have another journal that a friend gifted to me. This is a journal that I have that was given to me by another bestie. And so what I wrote in this were actually poems, like just poetry after poetry, like some of my greatest work comes out of this.
What do you write in your journal every day? Doings, ideas, plan. Yeah, ideas, poetry, one-liners.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have like just one-liners.
You know, I have different. So in
It just depends.
It depends. That's it. Certain journals are for one-liners. Certain journals are for poetry. Certain journals are stories and stuff. This one is actually writing about the spiritual space that I'm in now these days. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to share something with us?
All right, here we go. So this is what I want to close out with, and maybe this is it. After talking about spirit space, I realized the thing for me, spirit space is the thing that we create, and I think that spiritual space moves beyond geography, that it transcends that, and it starts with the self, right? And so I wrote this. I love Nina Simone. I feel like everybody seems to go to for women, and so I'm going to be one of those people who does that. And I read her book about I Put a Spell on You, and she talked about why she wrote for women, about black women, but black women in different textures, different skin color, different tones, hairstyles, everything. And she said that, we have to figure out who we are when she wrote this. And so it came out in 1966. And so for me, when I wrote this, what I did, I have a tendency when I love songs, I change the words around so I can take ownership. And so it begins with her first stanza. I go into poem, and then I come back as a way of changing it around so I can be empowered. So for anybody who knows, sing it along with me. She's like you should just sing this with
just
me.
Do
okay, I know. Clearly I get uncomfortable with poetry. Okay, so she has, my skin is black, my arms are long, my hair is woolly, my back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain, inflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Aunt Sarah. From the southern tips of Gullah, returning to her land, she mounted from the hilltops to save them from his hands. Leather-belted wounds written on their backs, singing songs of caged birds, babies hung from racks. Terms of endearment, black hearses she redeems, but the owning of her name, how we break from the seams. I call 4 generation of women, blood curdled from each lash. Man unscrupled by his power, unfazed and unattached. 4 generations, women come scream aloud, 4 broken chains, 4 centuries prouds. And then I return back to the song. My skin is black, my arms are long, my hair is woolly, my back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain, inflicted again and again. What do they call me? They call me beauty. Yes. That was written in this book.
That was. Yes. Well, with that is another episode of Digging Deeper. Thank you so much. So much. We said profound.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Traci, for being here, for having this conversation. An ongoing conversation. It's not going to end, It's just, I feel like we've scraped the surface a little bit, and
we did.
And maybe got a couple of things that we can go home and think about for ourselves. But thank you. I really appreciate you.
I loved it.
This was great. It wasn't as bad as
No,
you
it
thought
wasn't.
It
I
would
was
be.
freaking out. I was trying to study for this interview, right?
And I was like, it's not an interview. It's just
it's
a
not.
conversation.
It's not. Right. So I really didn't study though.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for watching. As you guys know, we are here every Tuesday at 7. Next week, we've got a great topic.
Wow.
We have another Flintstone, actually, next week. Ashley from, I think he's from Flint, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
And so that's going to be a great episode. This episode will be on my story for the next 24 hours, and then you can see it on my website tomorrow. The website is in digging-deeper.org. It's in my bio, so you can look at the link for that. And until next time, bye. Peace, joy.
Bye.
Be honest, be authentic, be yourself, and live to the fullest. Have a blessed day, and thanks for sharing light.
Oh.